millions of Americans, whether they manufacture the nation's steel, its airplanes, its ships, or automobiles, the quitting whistle signals the end to a day of work and forecasts the approach of evening and the coming of night. When industrial giants are at rest, the physical investment is all that remains to suggest the immense productivity of our nation. But industrial strength depends not on buildings and machinery so much as on the talents and energies of human beings. To know these American workers is to catch the spirit of American industry. On an ordinary day, thousands of them work in this automobile plant in South Bend, Indiana. Among them are many families. For instance, in body assembly, we come across the name Bocon. The R is for Rudy. In the drafting department works his brother, Joseph Bocon, Jr. The Bocon in final assembly is William S., known as Bill. And finally, in the paint department, during the day, you'll find the head of the family, Joseph Bocon, Sr. What kind of people make up this family of American workers? Let's find out by starting with Joseph Bocon, Sr. On 95 acres of good Indiana farmland out on Western Avenue, 4 miles from the South Bend city line, lives Joe Bocon, Pop to his family. Pop came to America from a European farm in his early teens. He worked and saved and bought this place about 25 years ago, dividing it among 3 sons and 4 daughters as they got married. Now, he and his wife have 12 grandchildren, with more on the way. Mom Bocon, 62, is a woman of talent. She runs an efficient, comfortable household and excels in needlework, making dresses, draperies, slip covers, and embroidering the family linen as well. Behind Pop's garden is the land he gave to his oldest son, Joe Bocon, Jr. Joe Jr. inherited his father's love of the soil. His well-equipped 10-acre nursery is a full-time hobby during the hours when he isn't making automobiles. Joe's sister Mary, oldest of the Bocon girls, is the mother of the youngest of the clan. Like most of the Bocons, Mary and her family live on a section of her father's farm down the road. Mary's husband, Cass, was a radio man in the Navy. In the evenings and on weekends, he services the family's dozen-odd radio sets and studies electronics. Rudy Bocon's hobby is different from those of the other men. As a boy, he used to trap muskrats. Now he raises another valuable fur-bearing animal, mink. Mrs. Rudy and her sisters-in-law have found mink scarves under the Christmas tree, presents which to many women are great luxuries. The third Bocon brother, Bill, has installed a machine shop in his garage. He spends just about all his free time working on a half-dozen pet projects. You can always be sure that one or more of his mechanically minded Bocon nephews is on hand to help Uncle Bill. Bill's also an amateur movie producer with his own camera and a projection machine. The workshop is such an attraction for the youngsters that when one of them is missing, say around lunchtime, it's not hard to figure out where he can be found. Next door to Bill's garage is the home of his sister Irene and her husband, who works at the plant too. They first met when Irene was a stenographer in the personnel department. Now, in typical Bocon fashion, they are the parents of a growing family and find it necessary to make the unfinished attic into an extra bedroom. Velma Bocon's husband is the only close Bocon relative who isn't in the business of making automobiles. He runs a service station, and his steadiest customers, of course, are his wife's family. Lillian is the youngest Bocon sister. Her recent marriage brought a new Joe into a family which already had 3 Joes. New Joe works in the truck plant. For busy mothers with household chores, 12 active kids can be and are quite a problem. Bill's wife, Mary, helps control the situation by seeing that the children get an hour's rest after lunch. As with the kids, Pop too has a siesta. This Saturday, Lillian has called a special meeting of the Mary Ann Club, named after Mary and Ann, the wives of 2 of the brothers who founded the Studebaker Corporation over a century ago. The girls will discuss the Century of Styles musical show, which their club is putting on to help celebrate the company's 100th birthday party. When a bunch of women get so serious, a man can always figure out an important job for himself elsewhere. For some time now, Pop has been helping Bill with his new house. So have the other boys. House raising, a tradition in New England, is also a tradition in this family of Studebaker craftsmen out here in Indiana. Sunday morning. With the Bocons, almost everything is a family project. This particular Sunday, there's a feeling of excitement in the air. It's Pop's 63rd birthday. And though he's reached the age when birthdays are no longer of much interest to him, that doesn't go for Mom or the rest of the family. Plans are afoot for later in the day that Pop doesn't know about. The motorcade gets underway on the dot as usual. The 6 Bocon automobiles, sedately cruising at 25 and evenly spaced in line, are a familiar Sunday morning sight out on Western Avenue. Back home, one of the mothers, having been to an earlier church service, takes her turn as the family babysitter. Pop still doesn't suspect what's going on, even when Mom makes the unusual request that they drive all the way in town to see the new school before going home. Meanwhile, there's plenty of activity at the house. For when all the Bocons get together, a meal becomes a banquet. On the birthday menu will be some of the dishes Pop likes best. cooked according to Mom's own recipes. Setting up for about 25 people is simply a matter of the usual Bocon cooperation. With everything ready, all that remains for the last minute is watchful waiting. Pitches in as usual. The girls learned a long time ago that you just can't keep her out of the kitchen. Many years ago, when Pop first came to America and South Bend, the chances are he might have dreamed of a scene like this, never thinking that it would come true. He had no way of knowing how rich the rewards of a free land could be. Probably no one will ever know what Pop thinks on such occasions, except himself. Bill is the Bocon historian and has made a film record of nearly every important event in the family. By now, the Bocons are pretty well used to posing for pictures. The party doesn't end with dinner. Bill has arranged an extra added attraction. Last month, when Lillian and new Joe were married, the family cameraman was on hand. Now, the pictures are ready for the world premiere.
Presenting Lillian Bocon in She Got Her Man. Well, Bocons, here we see our baby on her wedding day. And this young person, pretty as a picture, is the mother of the bride. Here's someone else. Hey, Mary Jo, how about a kiss? Thanks, honey. Remember the chow? Wow. From the way our guests put it away, you'd think they didn't expect to eat for a week. And that went for everybody except Lily and the bridegroom, who was too excited. From soup to nuts, the whole party was wonderful, as you can tell from this lineup of satisfied customers. Aren't we lucky? And now, here they are, just before they went away. Something old, something new. Something borrowed, something blue. We always said Marlene Dietrich didn't have a thing on Lily. And so they lived happily ever after. Bye now.
Monday morning. On schedule, Rudy Bocon's car leaves Western Avenue and pulls up at his father's house promptly at 6:45. Although there are 7 cars and trucks in the family, the Bocons usually team up to drive to work. 5 days a week, from north, south, east, and west, the Bocons, the McGowans, the Allens, the Lawsons, and nearly 5,000 other family groups converge on South Bend and the immense factory, More than 20,000 strong, these men and women make up the Studebaker family. Al and Bill usually make the drive in 25 minutes flat. Cass and Joe Jr. arrive at the gates a few minutes later, followed right after by Rudy and Pop. New machines, efficient schedules, and advanced techniques contribute to America's productive might. But the quality of a product in the last analysis depends on the spirit of the people who make it, on human beings. This automobile, more than any other modern motor car, is the product of craftsmen, of sons and grandsons, of nephews and brothers who, by the thousands, share family traditions and inherited skills. The sum total of all this experience, of talents and years combined, is built into and gives distinction to every automobile that comes from this factory. In a way, the Bocon family symbolizes the thousands of craftsmen whose product is the Studebaker. New models appear on the drafting boards of men like Joe Jr. and Cass. On the assembly line, men like Bill apply to their jobs the skills and inventiveness they make use of in their workshops at home. Further down the line, the Rudy Bocons do their part on the front end and other stages of the assembly. Pop, at his job on the automobile of today, can remember the wagons and other vehicles he and many of the men still working with him helped to build years and years ago. Tonight's 100th anniversary show will turn time back even further than Pop can remember. In the show, Lillian Bocon of the Personnel Department will be Miss 1952. Hundreds of employees look forward to the show tonight, for it is a community project. Many a South Bend charity will benefit from it. To be their master of ceremonies, the girls have asked Fred McFall of the machine shop to lend them a hand. The Bocons are but one of the many family groups in the audience who typify the people who make up the Studebaker family of families. People like the 8 Wilk brothers total their time with the company, and it comes to 125 years. John Claver, his son, 2 daughters, and 2 grandsons, one of scores of family teams. C.M. Schultheis and his son Donald, they work in the general offices, along with many other father-son teams. The Thorntons, Father Russell, his sister, 5 sons, and the 2 grandsons he brought into the plant. And Orville Smith, his son and grandsons, 3 generations working side by side. Here tonight also are grandfather-granddaughter fellow employees, mother-daughter teams, and brothers and sisters. Men and women joined together by the spirit of Studebaker. Backstage, Fred goes over his script for the last time. With only seconds to go, Lillian and the rest of the cast try to remain calm.
When when Studebaker started 100 years ago, the famous founding brothers could never guess or know that when they built their wagons and hitched them to the stars, someday their name would shine in fame on a horseless motor cars. 1852. Two brothers named Studebaker opened a blacksmith shop in South Bend, Indiana. 1871. Mrs. O'Leary's cow burned down Chicago. 1 year later, fire struck the Studebaker Brothers Manufacturing Company. Within 2 years, the brothers had rebuilt their factory into the finest carriage and wagon works the world had yet seen. In 1902, Studebaker celebrated its golden anniversary. The company entered its second 50 years with the sale of its first horseless vehicle, an electric. Second customer, Thomas A. Edison. (1920). Studebaker discontinued wagon making entirely to become exclusively a maker of automobiles. And this year, the company had introduced its popular family-style Big Six. In 1939, Studebaker entered the low-price field with its stylish new Champion. 1952. Studebaker celebrated its 100th birthday. The distinction of being the first car of its second 100 years falls to its sleek 52 hardtop. In these past few minutes, we have seen 100 years pass quickly by. As a salute to our next 100 years, let's all, audience, everybody, join with the Studebaker Glee Club and male chorus in singing our song, Rolling Along for 100 Years.
Rolling along for 100 years, singing of the Studebaker, wagons and buggies and automobiles, singing of the Studebaker, born in the year 1852, thinking of a dream and it all came true, smart as a whip for any old trick, singing of the Studebaker, over America's hill.
from the ground up, Mr. Norton?
Hi, Susan. How'd you know it was me?
I'd know those size 12s anywhere.
Did you come down here and drag me away from my work just to heckle me about my big feet?
No, Smarty, I'm here on business. Dad's car needs a lubrication and oil change.
Okay, another grease job and an oil change. I'll tell Dave.
Well, you're really enthusiastic about your work today.
I'm sorry.
What's the matter, Hal? Something's been bothering you for days now.
Oh, it's just the same old thing. I don't know if I want to stay here and work with Dad or try something new on my own.
Hal Norton, front office, please.
Have you told your father how you feel?
No.
Why don't you have a talk with him? He'll understand.
Maybe I will.
I'll see you this afternoon when I pick up the car.
Sure. So long. Hey, Joe, give me a muffler hanger for that R5 truck I'm working on. I'll be back in a minute. You wanted to see me, Dad?
Yes, Hal. Sit down for a minute.
What's up, Dad?
Hal, I've been watching your work pretty carefully. I think you're doing a fine job. And I'm not saying that just because you're my son.
Well, thanks, Dad. It's always nice to hear.
Sure it is. But compliments alone don't mean a great deal. So here's something a little more concrete.
We have arranged for Mr. Hal Norton to attend the service school at South Bend during the 2-week period starting on the 24th. What's this all about, Dad?
We're going to need a new service manager shortly. Dave wants to move his family out to California. With the training you'll get at Studebaker, added to your practical experience in the shop, I think you're about ready to take over the job.
Well, Dad,
What's the matter? Don't you think you can handle it?
Yes, I think I could, but...
But what?
Well, Dad, it's just... Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to keep on working here.
Oh. I see. Why didn't you mention this before, son?
Well, I still haven't decided definitely. I knew how you'd feel about it.
There's no use telling you I'm not disappointed. The Nortons have been selling transportation here in Welland for 65 years. That's a long time to serve a community, Hal.
I know you've counted on my taking over someday, Dad, but... Well, I'm just not sure that selling cars is really what I want to do.
There's a lot more to it than just selling cars, Hal. The name of Norton means something to the people of this town. It stands for honest service, for a pride in our product, and for long years of supplying dependable transportation. Why, when your grandfather started selling Studebakers here, Welland wasn't even considered a town. But he had faith in the future of this country, and he knew that his vehicles were fulfilling a real need. We're still fulfilling that need today, Hal.
I know that, Dad.
All right. I never tried to tell you what to do with your life. I won't start now. That is, if you've made up your mind.
Well, that's just it, Dad. I haven't made up my mind. I was hoping I wouldn't have to decide anything right now. I'd like to think about this some more.
Of course, son. You think it over. But I've got to know soon. If I can't count on you carrying on the business, I've got to start making other plans.
I understand. Perhaps if I went to that service manager school,
I don't want you to go just to please me.
No. I think I'd like to go. Give me a chance to get away for a couple of weeks and think this thing out. Find out more about this business. Besides, I might actually learn something at that school.
Okay. And that'll give Studebaker a chance to look you over, too. You'll have to be in South Bend, Indiana on the 24th. You'll report to a Mr. Roberts. He's the manager of the factory service school.
We were to meet Mr. Roberts in the main administration building of the Studebaker Company. Half a dozen other training school students were already waiting in Mr. Roberts' office when I came in.
Hi. Good morning, fellas.
Good morning, sir.
You men are from dealerships all over the United States. I'd like to welcome you to South Bend. Hope your 2 weeks with us will be pleasant and interesting. Now, I know you're all pretty anxious to go through the plant, so I'm not going to bore you with a long speech. I just want to say this. I personally think that you men from the service departments are some of the best salesmen our company has. We here at the plant take pride in turning out automobiles and trucks of the highest quality. But give you a rough idea of what it takes to produce an automobile.
Well, that day I really learned something. Because we started right at the beginning, and at Studebaker, that means the foundry. The glow of the white-hot furnaces and the showering of sparks accompanies the processing of the basic raw material that goes into the making of an automobile. It's a vivid picture of America's great automobile industry with its sleeves rolled up. After being alloyed and purified, the molten metal is spilled into giant containers called bull ladles and taken by overhead rail cars to the pouring floors. Here it is carefully poured into flasks containing intricate sand molds and cores to produce the castings from which some of the thousands of parts used in a modern automobile are made. When the metal is cooled, molds and cores are broken away, and the castings go into automatic shaking devices. Then they are chipped, ground, and sandblasted. Every trace of excess metal and molding sand is carefully removed by experienced workmen. Finally, after complete inspection and thorough testing, the castings are ready for the machine shop. The rough cylinder castings are loaded into a continuous line of automatic transfer machines. 900 feet away, they come out completely and accurately machined, ready for assembly. Talk about American skill and ingenuity. Here's an engineer's dream come true. Fantastically intricate machines, some costing $250,000. Automatically turn, position, bore, drill, ream, and clean the castings. Then they are quickly transferred to the next operation. Sometimes it's hard to believe your eyes. One machine 325 feet long, the only one of its kind in the industry, automatically performs 48 completely different and highly complex operations, maintaining tolerances of 1/2 of 1/1000th of an inch. 2 cylinder heads are fed through and machined simultaneously by electrical control. All along the line, skilled operators keep watchful eyes on the automatic control panels, which guide the progress of the block through the intricate machine. In other parts of the machine shop, a series of sub-assembly lines are at work grinding crankshafts, connecting rods, pistons, and other engine components. At every step of the way, there is absolute insistence on extreme accuracy, and every machine part is subjected to a series of rigorous tests and inspections. Before a crankshaft can pass inspection, it must balance out to 1/8 ounce per inch, less than the weight of a thin dime. The finished parts are placed on overhead conveyors and fed to the engine assembly department. The blocks are put on traveling stands for initial assembly. They are turned on end for installation of connecting rods, pistons, camshafts, valves, and other internal parts. Finally, the engines are turned right side up as starters, carburetors, automatic chokes, and hundreds of other essential parts are added. The finished engines are placed on testing devices and under their own power, started and run for final adjustments. Meanwhile, in a separate group of buildings, work is in progress on the Studebaker body. Giant 750-ton hydraulic presses stamp steel sheets into fenders, hoods, and gas tanks. They automatically trim each section of what is later to become an automobile into the exact size called for in the specifications. The individual body stampings begin to look more like passenger cars when they are assembled in an intricate series of special jigs and fixtures, which hold them firmly in place while they're being welded together. The process of spot welding has come to play an important part in the making of today's automobiles. When the spot welding is completed, the new body is welded still more. All points of stress are given extra reinforcement by acetylene and electric welding. The skeleton body is placed on the metal finishing line to be sanded, cleaned, and made ready for painting. In the next step, the bodies are sent to the paint rooms, where heavy enamels are applied by expert workmen. After slowly passing through infrared drying ovens, they continue their journey down the production line. Gradually, roofing, upholstery, carpeting, weather stripping, and windshields are installed. Instrument panels are put into place. Then the door panels are added. Finally, all the familiar trim appointments of the Studebaker interior are installed, and the finished bodies are sent to the final assembly line. American know-how, which introduced and perfected the modern assembly line, now puts on a spectacular display as dozens of separate conveyor lines bring together the component parts, each in its proper sequence. A specific engine with the proper transmission is delivered to the line and installed on a particular chassis. Right on schedule, a specified body of the right style and color is carefully lowered into position where it meets the chassis and engine for which it was planned. Radiators, fenders, grills, all move into their proper place like clockwork. Gasoline and water are added, until at the end of the line, a gleaming new automobile is started up and driven away under its own power. One every 45 seconds. That's doing things in a big way. We were a group of very tired guys, each convinced that he had personally walked at least 50 miles when we reported back to Mr. Roberts' office at the end of the day. The following morning, classes began at the service school. And as usual, I was looking up at the underside of a Studebaker. At noon that day, during lunch in the company cafeteria, what I thought was a Studebaker engineer sat down at my table.
You are an engineer?
Funny, I was just thinking that's what you were. No, I'm just a visitor. Service manager school.
Oh, yes. I also am a visitor, but already for 6 months. My name is Alvarado Martinez de Zuriaga, but everyone here for some reason calls me Jose.
Well, Jose is fine with me if it's all right with you. Well, I'm Hal Norton. You say you've been visiting for 6 months?
Well, not alone visiting. I am here for a special study of the Studebaker manufacturing methods. You see, my father is a dealer in South America, and I'm sent here to learn the automobile business from the beginning. Perhaps if I learn enough, I can one day take over for my father.
I don't suppose you've ever heard of Welland, small town about 500 miles from here.
No.
Well, anyway, my father has a Studebaker dealership there.
Really? Well, then you and I should have a lot to talk about.
Yes, we should. I've got to get back to class now, but perhaps we could have dinner together. Do you know of a good place?
Leave it to Jose. I know a swell spaghetti joint. Good food and not too expensive.
Fine. We can meet at the hotel.
Hey, not bad for a beginner, huh? Very good.
They should have named you Giuseppe. Tell me, Jose, what did you think when you first saw the Studebaker plans?
Well, when I first came here, I was completely amazed. Everything was such a terrific size. The factory, the machines. We have nothing like it in my country.
Well, is that what impressed you, the bigness?
Yes, in the first week or two, while I was still a tourist.
What do you think now, after 6 months?
I'm still very impressed, but more by something else that I've discovered here. Something that to me is more important even than the speed and bigness. It is... How can I explain it to you? Perhaps if I tell you about a conversation I had with a man and his son, you will understand more of what I mean. It was several months ago in the experimental model shop, where new car bodies are handmade in full size out of wood. I had been in the shop a while making notes when I noticed that 2 men had been sounding one small section of a fender for quite some time. Do I disturb you if I watch?
Oh, glad to have you.
Anything we can tell you about our work?
Well, I was just wondering what it is you were doing.
I guess it does look funny.
2 men sanding away at one small section of wood for hours at a time. But our work has to be extremely accurate. You see, these wooden patterns are eventually used for making the metal stamping dies. You take the curve in this fender, for instance. It has to be down to 1/100th of an inch of what the blueprint calls for. But my father and I, we like to do better than that. We like to get it down to 1/150th of an inch.
But why, if you don't mind my asking, make the work more difficult than it already is?
Not really more difficult, young man. Just a little more trouble, but it helps produce a better car. Have you ever heard the saying, always give more than you promise?
No, I haven't heard that one before.
Well, it goes way back to the days when we were building wagons, right here in this factory. That was a motto Studebaker brothers got from their father. Point is, it helped them build the finest wagons in the world, and as long as we stick to that motto, we'll be building the finest automobiles, too.
Maybe that's the reason the Studebaker is bigger than ever after 100 years.
And that is what I mean by the something else that has impressed me so much. You hear a lot about craftsmanship here, and I think it is because that word seems to have a very special meaning to all Studebaker people. Perhaps it is because they have so much, what do you call it, tradition and pride.
I suppose that's true. I never thought of it that way. 100 years is a long time to build a business.
Yes, it is. Well, I should really be getting back to the hotel. I have to write the letter home tonight. I am already 2 behind.
I'll walk back with you. On the way back, I decided to stop in at the public library. I had a hunch that I might find the name Norton somewhere in those early sales records. And sure enough, it wasn't long before I found what I was looking for. There it was, in Clem Studebaker's own handwriting, May the 4th, 1892. A shipment for Harold W. Norton. 32 farm wagons, 19 buggies, 1 fire wagon. It felt sort of good to find my grandfather's name in a public library. I began to wonder how South Bend must have looked to him when he purchased those wagons. One of the books in the collection looked like it might tell me. Perhaps my grandfather had even talked with the Studebaker brothers. Those 5 pioneers whose family name is the oldest trade name in highway vehicles in the world. In a blacksmith and wagon shop on February 16th, 1852, the Studebakers began the course of events that was to make their company the 4th largest manufacturer of automobiles. In 50 years, the company grew until it became known as the foremost manufacturer of wagons, buggies, and carriages in the world. The Studebakers had early visualized that good transportation would be the key to the expansion of America. Soon their dreams became realities, until in 1874 a block-long 4-story factory stood near the site of the original wagon shop. Then, during its golden anniversary year, Studebaker produced its first horseless vehicle, an electric. And in 1904, the first gasoline-powered Studebaker automobile was offered to the motoring public. As American people took to the highways by the thousands, the company saw an opportunity for fulfilling a vital need. The automobiles that came out of South Bend were built with the same craftsmanship and quality that had made the Studebaker wagons world famous. Today, 100 years later, the South Bend plant alone covers more than 171 acres of land, a far cry from the simple blacksmith shop of 100 years ago.
I'm sorry, sir, but we're closing.
Oh, already?
It's 10 o'clock.
Really? You mean I've been here for 2 hours?
I suspect you've been in the Studebaker wagon shop.
Yes, ma'am. You know, I found my grandfather's name in that book. Well, good night. And thank you very much. For the 10 more days, I kept busy learning more about engines, how they're made and serviced.
I learned how spare parts and accessories are manufactured, stored, and shipped all over the world. And from Jose, I heard enough about the company to fill a small book. The more Jose told me, the more fascinated I became with the Studebaker story. I'd never fully realized the tremendous amount of painstaking work which lies behind the scenes in the production of a car. The long, arduous road of styling, designing, building, testing, then redesigning, rebuilding, retesting, over and over again. The close collaboration which must be maintained at all times between stylists, engineers, and production executives. The giant 880-acre outdoor laboratory featuring a 3-mile speedway. Steep grades, water hazards, and brutal cross-country roads, worse than anything the average motorist ever encounters. But the old principle of the Studebaker brothers still applies. Always give more than you promise. The vast amount of equipment needed for the modern, fully equipped testing laboratory, where the practical is separated from the impractical. The never-ending job of the purchasing executives to keep the Studebaker plant equipped with the most modern machines, facilities, and materials. The crucial decisions that must be made quickly and boldly by top-level management. The excellent labor management work, which has led to the enviable record of no major labor disturbance in the company's first 100 years. These are the things I learned from Jose. At noon during my last day at South Bend, Jose told me of a conversation he'd had that morning with a top executive of the company.
And it was just 1 hour ago that Mr. Henderson called me to his office to ask me if I thought my stay at Studebaker had been worthwhile. I think, Mr. Henderson, that I have learned many very technical things that will be of great help to me in my country.
Good. We're always glad to hear that.
But more than anything else, I hope that I shall be able to describe the, well, can I say the spirit of Studebaker?
Yes, you might say that. The spirit of Studebaker. It's an interesting thought. How would you describe it?
Well, it is kind of hard to describe, sir. But I think part of it is the pride and loyalty of everyone connected with Studebaker. Their respect for the traditions that lie behind the company. Their great, how do you say it, optimism for the future.
Well, I'm happy to know we've made such a good impression. And it's true. We are a company that's proud of its past and ambitious for the future. In 100 years, we've grown from a small blacksmith shop to what you see today. It's an American success story, and we're proud of it. But the way I see it, that's history. And history is something that's already been done, an accomplished fact. What's out there was built during the first century of Studebaker. I think it's important for you to know that we here at Studebaker believe that the second century of our company holds as many, if not more, opportunities than the first. Well, there are many things to be done yet. With the world becoming smaller with every year, transportation, good, dependable transportation, is more important than ever. To provide that transportation for the greatest number of people at the lowest possible price is a very real challenge and a great opportunity.
A challenge and a great opportunity. I think I know what you meant now, Dad, when you said there's more to it than just selling cars.
I'm glad, son. Oh, hello, Susan.
Excuse me for interrupting, Mr. Norton, but I was afraid Hal had stood me up.
Hey, it is late. I'm sorry, Susan, but I got all wrapped up in telling Dad about my trip to South Bend.
Now you have to start at the very beginning and tell me all over again.
You know, I think I'll marry this girl, Dad. She likes to hear me talk.
Might not be a bad idea. Come on, I'll walk out with you.
Wait a second, Dad. Let me turn the lights on the new display.
Then tell me what you think of it.
All right. You know, this is all Hal's idea of showing off the new model, which goes on display Monday morning.
Okay, Dad. All set.
Here we go.
Oh, look. It's beautiful, Mr. Norton.
It certainly is. Getting that old Studebaker was a great idea. I'm glad you come up with it.
Thanks, Dad. You know, I've had a chance to do a lot of thinking the last couple of weeks. And if what you said about coming into the business still holds, I'd like to.
Of course, son. You and I, we'll work together. And then someday soon, we'll change that sign out front to read Norton and Son.
Norton and Son.
What do you think of that, Susan?
I think you two will make a fine team.
How about skipping that movie we were going to? I've got a lot of plans I want to tell you about.
Well, you said yourself. I like to hear you talk.
See you tomorrow, Dad.
All right.
Good night, Mr. Norton.
Good night. Have a good time.
Turns out finished blocks at the other end, completely machined and drilled in less than a minute. It's no accident that the motors which power this machine, as well as a large percentage of all the electric motors at Studebaker, are Westinghouse motors. Westinghouse, whose pledge of sureness is kept in the great number of cars that roll off the Studebaker lines every hour. You can be sure if it's Westinghouse.
Presenting the new 1954 Studebakers, the cars with more for 54. You'll glow with pride when you wheel along in your distinctive 1954 Studebaker Commander V8. Feel the terrific zip of the world's most responsive V8 engine. Handling ease? Simply superb. And Studebaker's Miracle Ride is better than ever in every sedan, every sports coupe and hardtop, every station wagon. Optional in all 1954 Studebakers is hydraulic power steering. Wonderful for parking. Takes 75% less effort. Studebaker Automatic Drive is also available in all models. Like power steering, it's available at moderate extra cost. You get top value now and top resale value later on when you get an out-ahead 1954 Studebaker. See it and drive it. Then watch how fast you buy it. The sensational Studebaker for 54 at your Studebaker dealers now.
Who is the pillar of your community? The man who can help you with his specialty, cars.
Your Studebaker dealer.
Natch. Who's the man who offers you quality, economy, value with the lark?
Your Studebaker dealer.
Natch. Who is the man who guarantees his used cars with a warranty? ABC. Always buy, certified at
your Studebaker dealer.
Natch. Who's the man to see for service advice, right parts?
Top help. Low price. Your Studebaker dealer.
Natch. See him today for a happy deal. Be happy as a lark. With your Studebaker dealer. Natch.
Man, look at those horses go. What a finish. What a winner. Yes, and what a winner of a car we're going to show you. Come on along. This is it, the most modern car in America. It's a 54 Studebaker, a sports model. Raymond Loewy designed it. He's the world's greatest automobile stylist. It's a beautiful car inside as well as outside. In this year's Mobile Gas Economy Run, a Studebaker champion with overdrive averaged 29 5/10 miles to a gallon, and a Studebaker Land Cruiser V8 got the most miles per gallon of any grand sweepstakes winner in history. Studebaker's low-swung design holds the road superbly. You feel marvelously safe and relaxed. You can get this dream car that's a real car right away. It's ready for immediate delivery. Get ahead of the parade. Get more when you trade. Get a far advanced 54 Studebaker.
Performability from Studebaker. Performability exclusive with the 61 Lark. So exciting, you've got to drive it to believe it.
The Lark has all-around good performability. She does what you want, when you want it.
Lark acceleration with that new Lark 6 overhead valve engine. Passing power. You've got to drive it to believe it.
The new 1961 Lark was a real thrill to drive.
You stop quickly, smoothly, safely with new, bigger brakes. You've got to drive the Lark to believe it. Thousands did and proved Lark performability. United States Testing Company, certified.
Greatest team in the world. Fathers and sons working side by side to build wear-resisting stamina into every Studebaker.
Not a compact, not a big car, the Lark is utterly different. Thanks to advanced thinking from the Studebaker Corporation. Back of that thinking, the thousands of decisions behind the choice of every part in this car. For your convenience and comfort, wider doors that pass the hat test. Open on interiors with more rear seat room than any compact. Floors that don't break heels or catch moisture. Padded dashboards with full instrumentation, not just flashing lights. A built-in vanity case, another touch of extra luxury. That convenience and comfort, just part of the thousands of correct decisions that stand behind Studebaker's advanced thinking, which have made the Lark the utterly different car that it is. Compact? It's too luxurious. Big car? It's far too convenient. It can only be called the Lark at your Studebaker dealers now.
Uh-oh, too bad. Somebody forgot their ABCs. Always buy certified used cars. Behind this sticker stands your Studebaker dealer. It's his business to make sure you can be sure. Every ABC used car has been checked, double-checked from front to rear, inside and out by expert mechanics before this ABC warranty is made. Visit your Studebaker dealer and see how trade-ins on the Lark give you an extra wide choice. All represent top value. All are certified for your protection. Yes, sir, you'll find a happy deal when you invest in an ABC used car.
ABC.
You can say that again.
Always buy certified.
Sold only at your Studebaker dealer.
Pretty accurately, all the room you get in the Lark. 6 Husky astronaut trainees like these, seated in comfort.
Buying a new car, check the many exclusive features of tomorrow. Yours from the advanced thinking of Studebaker.
Performability from Studebaker. Performability exclusive with the 61 Lark. So exciting, you've got to drive it to believe it.
The 1961 Lark is real sharp looking. Just loved it, inside and out.
And so easy to get into, the new 61 Lark. Widescreen visibility all around. You've got to drive it to believe it.
No question about it. You do have to drive the 61 Lark to believe it.
New steering for 61. The Lark really takes those sharp turns. New oval steering wheel feels just great. You've got to drive it to believe it. Thousands did and proved performability. United States Testing Company, certified.
There goes another Lark skedaddling through traffic, making a beeline for the nearest bank. The savings certainly add up. Take gas, for example. The new improved Super Economy 6 is famous for saving you more on regular gas. The Lark V8 topped all other 8s in the last mobile gas economy run. Business records show the Lark saves up to 33% on fuel bills and up to 23% on maintenance. Sensible design saves you even more. Look, Lark fenders, grill, and bumpers all bolt on easily, meaning lower service charges and lower insurance rates. Finally, the Lark's low price is certainly a steal. The happy deal you get at your Studebaker dealer makes the Lark the buy of the year. Find out for yourself. See and price 6 stunning styles. Talk to your Studebaker dealer and learn how easy it is to be happy as a lark.
Hi, Rex May here with some sports car buffs who really know their cars. Now, these fellows have driven every kind of compact. Say, Jim, what do you think of the 61 Lark?
Swings, man. Why, in the first international compact car race at Sebring, the Lark shared the first 4 places with a pair of racing Jags. The Lark left the other compacts 15 to 30 miles behind.
Yeah. And did you know the Lark blew a tire and had to finish the last lap on the front left rim? They clocked it at 120, too.
Well, how about last fall at the Lime Rock Sports Car Track and Little Le Mans? The Lark set a new record and won out over 29 foreign cars. And it didn't do bad at Daytona either. You know, it averaged 80 miles an hour around that tough 3-mile course.
You may not be a sports car buff, but you'll sure enjoy the sports car feel and drive of all 61 Lark models. Look in at your Lark showroom today.
This next meet was a Studebaker Drivers Club meet. The lower New York state region of SDC, held on the grounds of the old World's Fair. That was 1964 World's Fair. There's a rare Packard Hawk. There's the front of my 64 GT. Again, you see Harry Barnes there in the middle, founder of the Studebaker Drivers Club. Now boasts a membership of roughly 10,000 members worldwide. There's a rare 64 Daytona convertible amongst a bunch of Avantis. There's a very rare car, a Hudson Italia. There's a 37 Studi. In 1970, some of the grounds were still intact from that fair. Oh, there's a Rolls-Royce town car. Here's a little award ceremony they held. This was the Lower Hudson Valley chapter of SDC that sponsored this meet. Our first stop was in South Bend at Avanti Motors to see the car which Studebaker developed. It cost $16,000. There have only been 250 made since 1966. Here's what's left of the old Studebaker buildings, which once employed 22,000 people at its peak and closed down in 1963. Wow, isn't that something there? There's a late model Lark, one of the last ones produced here. Really good shape, too. Boy, it's really something to see these old buildings. Boy, look at that falling apart. There's the owner of Avanti Motors 55 Packard Caribbean convertible. And you can see the buildings here are in a deteriorated state. Where the Avanti is manufactured, though, is the same building where it was originally made. And here you can see I would describe it as a Studebaker graveyard here. You see these late model Larks and Packards just deteriorating on the outside. It's really some sight. Here's a 6-story warehouse where they still sell original Studebaker parts, brand new parts. And on the other side of town, there was quite a nice museum there of Studebakers, starting from the original covered wagons right on up to the latest models.
Packard reduces prices.
Imagine a Packard for only $8.88. Hey, Dad, when you trade in this crate, why don't you go down to...
Packard prices flat. Look at this. $100 to $300 price cut on Packard cars. What's the idea? Search me, but watch Packard sales now.
Did you see this? Now you can buy a Packard for $8.88. That's an awful lot of car for the money.
Yeah? But what have they done to the car?
Not a thing. It says right here, not one detail has been changed or cheapened or left off.
All right then. So how do they do it? You ought to read the papers, Joe. It's all here. Packard complete 4-year plan. This is the beginning of a new permanent price policy. It's the fulfillment of a plan that has been 4 years in the making. A plan to give you not just more car, but... Thus America received the news of the 4-year Packard plan, a program of progress which enabled Packard to cut prices and still maintain the respected Packard standard of quality. In this announcement, there was news of even greater importance than reduced prices alone. Here was a significant demonstration of the American way of industrial progress, the way ahead. In Motorwise Detroit, the news came as a startling surprise. First indication to Detroiters that a building program was underway was the erection of a bridge across East Grand Boulevard connecting junior and senior production plants. But this was merely the outward symbol of an evolution within Packard plants, which was perhaps the greatest industrial metamorphosis in the history of the automobile industry. It was not an overnight achievement, but rather the climax of 4 years of development, designed to make Packard just as outstanding in coordinating manufacturing efficiency as it already was in engineering progress and quality craftsmanship. Let's turn back the calendar, back to the year of the introduction of the first of the junior car series, and follow this plan of progress. Back in 1935, the first Packard 120 made its bow to motordom and opened a new and broader market for Packard dealers. This car demonstrated to the motoring public and to Packard dealers that Packard's exacting standards could be maintained in volume production. From the very first, the 120 was a success. It was a Packard through and through. In fact, the same materials, the same facilities, and the same standards of craftsmanship which produced the most expensive aristocrats of all motordom also helped to build these new junior cars. But even as Packard foresaw the opportunity for a car of character in the medium price field, so Packard also recognized from the outset that this move would, of necessity, ultimately require a complete new manufacturing plan. It is simple enough from a manufacturing standpoint to build a high-priced car of limited production. And it is comparatively easy to set up a plant for large volume production of low-priced cars alone. But Packard was producing a car of medium price in a plant laid out and tooled for the manufacture of the finest and most costly of cars. And Packard fully realized that no complete rearrangement was practical at one time. The blending must be accomplished gradually over a period of years. So at first, although united in quality, the junior car division was necessarily widely separated geographically from the senior car manufacturing division and from their combined sources of materials and parts. For example, forgings and castings for the junior cars had to be transported nearly the full length of the mile-long plant to their ultimate destination. On the other hand, fenders, hoods, and various other sheet metal stampings produced in the stamping plant had to be transported half a mile to the finishing and painting division in the senior car plant, then transported back again to be built up into 120s and 6s. And finally, the finished cars had to be driven from the end of the assembly line half a mile to the shipping department and car loading dock. On East Grand Boulevard, stoplights were installed to halt the flow of traffic and allow waddling caravans of parts to cross the street. Impatient motorists waited in rows as load upon load of forgings and castings rumbled across to the junior car division. And impatient motorists grew more impatient as strings of completed junior cars recrossed the boulevard on their way to the loading dock. The symphony of protesting automobile horns was a constant spur to Packard's factory planning board to correct the wasteful, though unavoidable, confusion of this operation. But even before the junior cars were announced, Packard had begun to develop a program of rearrangement in manufacturing plans to make possible greater production efficiency, lower cost, and greater value. Thus, when the newly born 120 was making headlines as motordom's biggest news, Packard was planning and preparing for a brighter future. Without any fanfare or formal announcement, this plan of progress went into effect. This was an opportunity peculiar to Packard, because only Packard had the priceless background of experience in both hand craftsmanship and ultra-modern production methods. And so, through the years, progressed the gradual process of unifying Packard facilities. Nothing was done in haste. On immense planning boards, every step in this transition was carefully considered and weighed, for upon the success of this planning hinged a new era for Packard. With the completion of the 1939 production schedule, the final and most spectacular phase of the reorganization swung into action. Was a streamlined plan of production without a parallel in the industry. Assembly lines 3/4 of a mile long, straight and uninterrupted. Miles upon miles of conveyor lines moving along in an overhead highway system of critically timed progress. Millions of dollars in new machinery, too, obsoleting and superseding manufacturing tools which had been recognized as the most modern in the industry. Finally, the men of Packard were called back to work. These are men to whom true craftsmanship is a creed. They look different and they are different from the rank and file of production workers. Some of them have been with Packard since the very beginning. Many have spent their entire working lives in Packard plants, growing up with Packard traditions of fine car building. And all of them have the true craftsman's appreciation of finer tools as a medium for precision production. At length, After years of planning, rearranging, and patient progress, the Packard program became a reality. In Packard plants, wheels turned, power flowed into production lines, and a new era in fine car building began. It was the realization of the 4-year plan and the beginning of a new and permanent policy in value giving. A multi-million-dollar investment in equipment and expansion to reduce manufacturing costs and make Packard ownership easier to attain than ever before. It has been frequently stated that Packard wouldn't know how to build a cheap car. And this is true in the sense that Packard never learned how to compromise with quality merely to reduce prices. Instead of withdrawing from old markets, Packard was creating new markets, blending old ideals and old standards of quality with tomorrow's standard of production, excellence, and efficiency to bring Packard ownership to new thousands of motorists. No longer was there any production segregation of senior and junior cars. Now, all were Packards in the finest sense of the term. Nor was Packard deserting its proud old clientele. Through the blending of facilities, all cars shared equally in Packard's outstanding design, development, and research. And buyers of Packards in all price levels receive the benefits of this forward-looking manufacturing program. You're going to hear a lot about this 4-year plan, so let's draw a quick comparison of the old and the new. Here is the production plan of 1935, immediately following the introduction of the first of the junior cars. You don't have to be a manufacturing efficiency expert to appreciate the unavoidable confusion and waste of this procedure. Here is Packard production at the end of 4 years of rearrangement, streamlined for a new era in Packard history. Now, America's oldest fine car builder sets a new standard of modern efficiency for the industry. And here is the fruit of the plan. But let's not look at these cars merely from the standpoint of industrial achievement. Here are cars which will stir excitement and enthusiasm throughout all motordom. Let's look at these cars through the eyes of our customers in a candid camera review of the Packard line for 1940.
There, that's the way you expect a new Packard to look. Trim, swift, and eager. Dignified without being pompous. And smart without being faddish.
And that is exactly the effect which Packard designers have striven to attain. Modern, graceful styling, true harmony of lines and contours without any extreme or freakish effects. The radiator is pleasingly modified, but the unmistakable identity of Packard character has been preserved.
Study the car and you get the effect of speed lining. The long headlights ferret into the catwalk, the arch of fenders, the longer bonnet and the tilt of the windshield, the sweep of the roofline and the blending of curves at the rear. They all combine to give the car an appearance of speed.
It seems like such a big car, yet it isn't at all cumbersome looking.
Sure, that's the point. It is a big car. But because it's so nicely proportioned, it has poise and grace.
That's right. The 120 is a big car. 127-inch wheelbase. Packard has the longest wheelbase in proportion to overall length of any car of comparable size. And it's big inside, too, with plenty of room to stretch out and relax.
Thank goodness this car has running boards.
Yes, and it doesn't have one of those beastly humps in the floor.
Just take it easy and pretend we're important. I'm the chauffeur in this family.
How roomy it is. Why, the doors are almost as big as those in our house.
And the back of the front seat is curved to make it easier to step in or out. Nice idea.
There you are. The very picture of comfort.
It is comfortable. And so tastefully appointed, too. Your arm falls naturally on the armrest. The footrest is just where you want it. And these assist straps are really of assistance, not just decorations.
The heavy silken robe cord draped across the back of the front seat. The rear compartment light in crystal pattern. Such little niceties of design as this distinctive door paneling and the colorful plastics and the escutcheon plates. Notice how the recessed reveals frame the windows and accentuate the size of the window openings. From every standpoint, this new 110 has a charm that excites pride of possession.
It certainly is a lot of car for the money.
And it's a Packard.
Come on, get in. There's plenty of room.
Well, I've heard about front seats big enough for three, but this is the first I've ever seen.
Plenty of footroom, too, even for the center passenger.
Sure, that's because the floor in this car is level, and the gear shifter is on the steering column. Say, this is the easiest car to shift I've ever known, and it's neat and clean looking.
I like this. The instrument panel is really good looking.
But more important, you can see all the driving instruments right through the steering wheel. And this speedometer pointer is luminous at night. Up to 30 miles an hour, it glows with a green light. From 30 to 50, it's amber, and above 50, the point glows with a red warning of caution.
Look at the glove compartment, so nice and roomy. And this lock looks as if it means business.
But notice how much more vision these new cars give you through the windshield, and also through the rear window. Well, here's something, electric windshield wipers. Constant action regardless of engine speed.
And look, these ventilating windows move out at a touch.
Yeah, they stay set, too, and provide a He-Man look. Good old econo drive. More performance, smoother speed, plus real Scotch economy.
Only you didn't have that clunk when econo drive goes into effect.
Oh, that's all out now. Smooth as silk.
For 40 years, Packard has been building its own bodies. Certainly, they're stronger and quieter. Packard puts the money into its bodies instead of the pockets of outside body makers.
Of course, every year brings a whole crop of new cars, new gadgets, and new selling points. There's only one that could make me dissatisfied with our old Packard. That's the new Packard.
Packard's always been famous for performance. But this car tops them all. The Packard 160.
Man, that really is an engine. What's the horsepower?
160 horses.
160 horsepower? Wow.
Yeah, but in spite of all that power, the 160 is amazingly economical. No manufacturer in the industry can duplicate Packard's background in building engines. And while this is a brand new engine in design and performance, nevertheless, it is backed up by Packard's unequaled experience of 40 years as master motor builder.
160 horsepower. I wish I had this car on the open road right now.
Who wouldn't? Not only is this the most powerful 8-cylinder car of today, but it has a greater power-to-weight ratio, hence more brilliant performance than any stock car. And these new Supers are just as outstanding in luxury, too. The richly upholstered seats are padded with air foam rubber over Marshall springs. Every detail of appointment and equipment is designed to the taste of those who appreciate a true aristocrat, even to the rich lamb's wool floor carpeting and footrest. With their superlative performance, these new Supers are destined to become the new master of American highways. So let's take one out on the road and put it through its paces. Out on the Packard proving ground, these new Supers have already proved that they are, without a doubt, America's pacemakers for years to come. So let's give this great car a chance to tell its own exciting story. First, acceleration. No guesswork, but actual stopwatch timing. All right, get set, go. Look at that speedometer climb. And imagine how such acceleration would carry you through traffic. Watch it. There you are, from 0 to 60 miles per hour through the gears in 13 seconds. But stopwatch timing alone can't give you the whole story. Let's compare the new Super with the next best performer we know, the 1939 Super 8. Okay, boys, step on it. And right from the start, the new Super steps into the lead. Don't think that other driver isn't tramping on it, but look at that new car pull away. Follow them down into the curve. We thought last year's Super 8 was tops, but look at the difference. Would you like to see how fast the new Super will run? Okay, here we go. And this is probably the fastest ride you'll ever have in an automobile. What's the speedometer read? 104 miles an hour. Gentlemen, this is traveling. Look at those guardrail posts go by. Believe it or not, they're 12 feet apart. But at this speed, they're a picket fence. How do you like that? 104 miles an hour with hands off the wheel. That's stability for you. Here's more performance than any motorist will ever need. But speed alone isn't the whole story of the new Supers. Not by any means. Roadability and ease of maneuvering are just as important. And out in the proving ground back roads, all the cars of the new series demonstrated their road-hugging balance. These roads are carefully maintained as the worst roads in America. But the cars hung on to the dizzy curves and turns as if riding on rails. As for rough roads, well, can you imagine a road rougher than this? Here's a real test of riding comfort. Look at those wheels dance, and what a beating Safety Flex must absorb. In slow motion, the traffic punishment is even more obvious. Look at the wheels rise and fall as Safety Flex eats up the pounding jolts and the body rides through on an even keel. Using a car equipped with lights mounted on the top and on the hubcaps, Packard engineers made an interesting and conclusive study of comparative ride in various cars. Here's the portrait of the Packard ride, obtained by a time exposure as the car passed over the ties. The wavy line is bouncing wheels. The level line at the top indicates the level travel of the body. This record was made by the new 110. From the proving ground comes the invitation to put these new Packards to any test you can think of. Through the heaviest traffic, over the worst roads, and then compare Packard with any cars at any price. Here are the finest Packards in all Packard history. The most modern in design and the most soundly built. And at the lowest prices for which Packard cars have ever sold. But this is not the end of Packard's new price policy. Rather, it is only the beginning. For the future, Packard promises no other car shall offer as much for the money as Packard. It is the way ahead.
Well, hello there.
Hello, Duke. Hello, Mom. Hello, Gal.
About time.
Duke, what happened to you here? Here, sit down.
No, this is fine.
Only got a minute. You've got to help us.
Yes, all folks to the rescue. Please, one at a time.
Stop it, all of you. Let's be seated calmly and talk like intelligent people.
Well, we're on a committee.
Raising funds for the Red Cross, and we've got
And we want to buy your place.
Got to have it for the coming out party.
For the movies, Technicolor, just like Hollywood. Movies? Red Cross coming out party?
No. Packard's coming out in movies for the Red Cross.
And the producer wants to use all this as background for the new Packard cars. Isn't it exciting?
You mean actors and actresses?
No, of course not. Just our friends. Bright young people on the way up. Solid, substantial folks in the 40s. Handsome old fogies like you and Mom. Backbone of the nation.
Sure, the whole Packard family.
Junior League meets the Union League and all that sort of business.
Oh, I think it's fun. Hang up things very festive, gay backgrounds for glamorous cars. Lots of wee and whooping.
Oh, I'm still a little mixed up.
That's all right. You'll love it. It does sound rather interesting.
Okay, then. Fine. Come on, let's start calling people.
And decorations just like Hollywood.
Will you please tell me what's going on?
I guess we just wait and find out.
Color. Let's have lots of color. This
This year, Packard's going for color in a big way. Lots of rich, glamorous color.
Welcome to our coming out party. It's all for fun and charity. I know you're going to get a thrill out of seeing the Packard family meet the exciting new models for 1941, and I hope you enjoy watching how movies are made.
Really? Oh, this is fun.
I told them I just didn't have a thing to wear. You look so silly in all that makeup.
Well, after all, it's for charity.
I don't know how to act. I admit it.
But you don't have to act. Just do as you're told.
All right, please, everybody. Camera. Action. Now start panning up. Now hold on the reflection of the car. Silence, symbol of smooth, quiet performance. Pan up to the car itself.
Introducing the Packard 110 for 1941.
Move in, folks. Don't be afraid. You've just discovered the new Packard. It's longer and lower with lots of oomph. Be excited. Let yourself go. That's it. Cut. And okay it. That's swell. Hold it.
That blue and gray combination.
Now do it again, just like that. All right, boys, take it away.
Enduring Packard identity, yet always modern and always in good taste.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. What's next?
The 110 Deluxe, and I mean deluxe. All right, boys, we're moving.
We open with this shot to show the effect of rich contrasting paint and bright chrome. And this fine expanse of glass for better vision in all directions. We must have a full shot of this luxurious interior. Then we come into a close-up of the rear window with its bright chrome molding. And as Milady steps out, we pause to admire this deep fender framing the wheel. Here, we see the car from one of its most impressive and fascinating angles. It shows the gracefully descending line of the roof and the sweeping rear deck. That suggests plenty of luggage space. This is worth a close-up. The vertical position of the spare tire makes a more usable luggage compartment.
Okay, that's it. Let's make it.
All right, places, people. Quickly, please. Let's have it quiet, please. This is a picture.
Randy.
Why, it's the 120.
Just call it our next car.
Madam? Oh, darling, I'm so sorry. After you.
No, after you. You're the driver.
All right, dear.
Say, you really sink down in these cushions.
your first love, eh?
No, sir. No, sir. But this is mighty tempting, sir. Mighty tempting.
Charles? Charles?
Yes, dear. What's this?
Don't break anything.
Well, let's find out. Well. Amazing.
Charles, of course, we don't need a new car, really.
I know.
But perhaps.
Well.
All right, boys, a complete new lineup. We'll get set for the big parade. Plenty of production value. You line it up, Ted. I'll be over here at the gates.
Packard presents 5 lines of cars with 38 body models, covering a price range from low to high, extending Packard satisfaction and pride of ownership to all motordom. Improved in mechanical excellence as you would expect from Packard, styled in a manner to turn heads and excite admiration everywhere. From every standpoint, the finest motor cars ever to bear the proud name and heritage of Packard.
Announces a new fine car series, the new Packard Executive. Here is a car with a special invitation to people of taste to enter the luxury car class, to own a fine car with a proud name, yet at a cost just above medium price lines. The Packard Executive is truly distinctive in its styling. Rich luxury appointments mark its interiors. Here, too, is riding perfection. Packard's exclusive torsion level ride. In the Packard Executive, you get famous twin ultramatic drive as standard equipment and many other exclusive Packard engineering advances. Yes, the new Packard Executive is an invitation for you to enter the luxury car class now at a modest investment. See and drive the new Packard Executive.
Oh, it rained down there. Tell me, this is it for it.
Oh, he's back to business. Okay. I wish they paid me that.
We don't have to worry about which day.
Right there.
Right outside.
Oh, it's a
We don't have any 30 speeds at all.
Okay, so we got to check. The Gene Ledbetter. Sure. Paul Ledbetter is.
Carolyn, you're gonna go. What's up, Bud?
Watch you take her. Good. Ducks at home too?
You have
You have geese, ducks. Oh, we do. You are too.
Forget it, Joe.
Jose, say good morning. Hello. I'll go ahead and go across there. Take me an hour to adjust these things. Don't get up, don't get up. Oh, I gotta set the light in this thing. Are we your way? You like this one? Me? Enjoy that? Top. Let's look at the difference between the wheels here and the running board. 5 feet would be 5 inches. 5 inches. And that's when you flew the transat. So he had a transat built, had an external cooler put on. It's not a cooler anything. Yeah, that would help. He said he started to add a little extra. No stop leak or anything. Just that once in a while. Around that time. And he said,
I remember this one. Somebody come over. That damn thing runs most of the night.
you want me to pack all this in here?
Are you going to show us at the next meeting?
Yeah, you want to do I saw this one.
Basically redid everything fuel-wise.
Well, you might have
too much of that.
I'm not sure why they come out like that, because there was never any holes drilled, you know, for
that green convertible.
Did you hear German and
videotape. $100 for a used trophy. Recall? No, recall. I saw one for 150. That was a better deal.
Well, you will. That makes the same age as I got.
Well, I parked at the showroom.
That's probably pretty close.
Who's the guys who's got the Packards over there? Also Newburgh.
That looks like he's losing a light there, doesn't it?
Folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office.